Bernard stood in the veterans' hall, running his fingers along the old photographs on the wall. At 58, he'd spent 30 years organizing events for former service members, but tonight's gathering felt different. Across the room, a British veteran named Colin was setting up his presentation. Bernard had invited him to share stories about mountain training exercises from the 70s and 80s. What Bernard hadn't expected was how personal the evening would become. "Gentlemen, ladies," Bernard began, his voice carrying the calm authority of his years. "Tonight we have Colin Hartley, who served with distinction and has some remarkable stories about learning respect in the high places. Colin, a gentleman in his late 60s with kind eyes and weathered hands, smiled warmly. "Thank you, Bernard. You know, I'm not here to talk about who was better or tougher. I'm here to talk about a lesson I learned about humility." The room settled into an attentive quiet. "It was 1978, Colin said. We were doing joint training exercises in the Rockies. 22 years old I was, full of confidence, maybe too much." He clicked to a photograph of snow-covered peaks. "We had this attitude, you see, thought we knew everything about mountain warfare. Then we met the American mountain specialists, fellows from Colorado, Montana, men who grew up in those peaks." Bernard leaned forward. He loved these stories of unexpected wisdom. "First day our unit got caught in a whiteout," Colin continued. "Couldn't see 3 feet ahead. We were navigating by compass, doing everything by the book, and we were absolutely lost." He paused, letting the memory settle. "Then this American sergeant, couldn't have been more than 25, finds us. Name was Robert. Didn't say we were foolish, didn't gloat, just said different mountains, different rules. Let me show you something." An older veteran in the audience nodded knowingly. "Robert taught us to read the wind. Patterns. How the snow gathered differently in those peaks. How the altitude affected everything we thought we knew. And he did it with such grace, such patience." Colin's voice grew softer. "I remember thinking, I came here believing I was already an expert. It was humbling, but Robert treated us like students, not fools. He said something I've never forgotten. Every mountain has wisdom to teach if you're willing to be a student." Bernard found himself deeply moved. How often in life do we think we know everything, only to discover there's always more to learn? "The next week, we were in Welsh mountains," Colin continued. "Robert's unit struggled with the terrain, completely different, wet, rocky, unpredictable weather. So we shared what we knew. It became this beautiful exchange." He clicked to another photograph showing soldiers from both nations, arms around each other's shoulders, smiling in the mountain sun. "We realized something profound," Colin said. "We'd both arrived thinking about competition, about proving something. But the mountains didn't care about our pride. They demanded respect, cooperation, humility." After the presentation, Bernard and Colin stood together by the coffee table. "You know what the real instant regret was?" Colin said quietly. "It wasn't getting lost in that storm. It was almost missing the friendship because of ego. Robert and I corresponded for 40 years. He passed last spring. Parkinson's." "I'm sorry," Bernard said. "He taught me that being strong isn't about never needing help," Colin reflected. "It's about being wise enough to learn from others." Bernard thought about his own life, the times he'd been too proud to ask for directions, too stubborn to admit he was wrong, too fearful to show vulnerability. "My father served in Korea," Bernard shared. "He used to say the mountains don't care about your medals. They care about your wisdom." Colin smiled. Robert said something similar. "Mountains make everyone equal. They teach everyone who's willing to listen." As the evening wound down, a younger veteran approached Colin. "Sir, I'm deploying to mountain regions next month. Any advice?" Colin placed a gentle hand on the young man's shoulder. "Learn from everyone, the local guides, the experienced soldiers from other nations, even the youngest member of your team. Pride is heavy weight to carry at altitude." Bernard walked Colin to his car later. The night was clear, stars brilliant overhead. "Thank you for sharing that story," Bernard said. "I think we all needed to hear it. We spend so much time comparing, competing," Colin said thoughtfully. "But the best moments of my life came from being humble enough to learn, open enough to admit I didn't have all the answers." Bernard nodded. At 58, he understood. Life itself was like those mountains, constantly teaching those willing to be students. As Colin drove away, Bernard looked up at the stars. Different mountains, same sky, different people, same need for connection, humility and grace. The real victory, he thought, isn't in being better than others. It's in being wise enough to learn from them.